So today I'm out here servicing my tractor. Like I said, I've got a New Holland Workmaster 40 here. It's about 3 years old now. It was actually built in 2019, right before the whole world went crazy, thankfully. I didn't purchase it until a year or two later, though. It was sitting on the dealer's lot for that long. So even though the tractor's a few years old, I've only had it for about 2 years. Anyway, I've changed the engine oil and the engine oil filter a couple of times, but some of the other stuff has been neglected, like the fuel system, for example, and the coolant, and that sort of thing. So today, seeing as how I've had the tractor for a couple of years, I figured it would be a good opportunity to get some of this stuff caught up. So some of these parts have been updated. If you've got one of these Workmaster 35 or 40 tractors, you'll probably find that some of the maintenance parts have been updated, and I'm going to show you what the new ones look like, as well as the new part numbers here in just a moment. I will say some of this maintenance is a little bit tough, but it's really not all that bad. A good oil filter wrench, I like that kind that has the big claw on the end of it, is going to work wonders on this tractor, because you're going to need an oil filter wrench like that to get to the fuel filter as well as the engine oil filter, especially if it's your first service, because from the factory they put these filters on pretty tight in my experience. So you're going to need one of those big clamp style oil filter wrenches. But if you've got an assortment of sockets and ratchets and a good oil filter wrench, you can do all of this maintenance yourself and save yourself a whole bunch of money. So let me get the camera and come in a little closer, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. One thing while I'm over here, this screen here, you've got a mesh screen that covers your radiator. This thing was really nasty. I'm gonna get the pressure washer out and actually clean under the hood here in just a moment. But don't forget to take this out and clean it, because just using the tractor around here, and we don't even use this tractor for hay operations or anything like that, but the whole lower part of this screen was covered in grass and dirt and grime. So I had to take that out and clean it out. Don't forget to do that part. It's pretty simple. It just slides in and out, and then you've got a single thumb screw up here in this top corner that secures it, as I'm having a little trouble with it here. But it's really not bad to get to. See, it's just right there. You've got an inner and outer air filter here. You can take these out and kind of blow them out with compressed air and clean them first couple of times. Eventually you're going to have to replace the filter elements in there too, so don't forget about that. But anyway, let me get the camera and bring it over and show you some of these updated parts. And you'll also note that I have a board up underneath of the loader there, which is something that you definitely want to do while you're working on these tractors. Some kind of support under the loader so that it cannot fall on you while you're under here working. Always be safe, right? So here's what the new fuel filter setup looks like. And you can see that it's comprised of a plastic housing, and now they have a plastic transparent bowl on the bottom so that you can actually see the fuel that's in there. And let me show you what the old one looked like that came out of it. Yeah, so here's the old one that came out of it. And you can see it just looks like a standard canister type filter. There's the old numbers off of it. So yeah, I mean, they've really changed up the fuel filter on these tractors a lot. Again, here's the new setup. So now you've got this plastic housing and a plastic bowl. But the advantage here is that you can see the fuel in there. So if you had really nasty fuel or something, you could get a visual alert on that. Now, this did come with a new O-ring up here, a gasket. And it also had a little O-ring that goes on the threaded portion. So make sure you get both of those when you order this. I got all of my stuff from Messick's. You guys can get it wherever you want. But for me, I can just make a phone call to Messick's, tell them which tractor I've got, and they send me everything I need in one box, and it's pretty simple that way. The fuel in water, or water in fuel, I guess I should say, the water in fuel sensor screwed right onto this new bowl perfectly. And I did check it, and I don't have any fuel leaks, so everything seems to be working okay, even though it's a totally different looking thing. Now, there's another O-ring they give you that goes right here, where the bowl screws into the housing. There's an O-ring that goes in there too, and they did send me that one as well. I will say, screwing the bowl into this housing was not easy, so it's going to take a little effort. And make sure you put some fuel on that O-ring to lubricate it before you try. It wasn't very easy, but what I did was I got it started, and then when I put the whole housing up on there, I was able to put an 1.25 inch socket on the bottom here and turn the whole thing. This got tight, and then the bowl started to get tight. That's how I did it. So not the easiest thing in the world, but it works. As far as the coolant goes, it's just your regular old ethylene glycol coolant. The old green stuff that we've had for years and years and years. You do have a cap here that you can just pop off. It's not threaded. You just got a little tab right there. You can pop that cap off. And of course, here's your low mark and there's your high mark. The engine is really cold, so it should be right in the middle. I had to top it off a little bit, but not too bad. Now, going around to the other side of the tractor, this is where the big magic happens. So you can see where the oil filter is on the Workmaster 40. I'm assuming the Workmaster 35 is the same. It's buried way back in here. And like I said, the factory filter was on super tight. I think they have Superman working on the line. I tried to use a regular style oil filter wrench, and it did not work. It ended up breaking the wrench. And you can't get the type that just, you know, like the cap type that sticks on there, and then you put a ratchet and an extension in there. You can't use that, because the loader framework is in the way. So that type of oil filter wrench that I was talking about is the only thing I can find to work on this, because you got to be able to reach in there from this angle and get on that. But in any case, I can't get to the number at the moment. I'll show you the number when I go over there and look at the boxes. But the oil filter apparently has also been updated. This one is a lot shorter than the one that they gave me last year, but it's a lot fatter. So I guess the total volume of oil that it can filter is probably about the same, but it is a little bit different. So just FYI on that. Now, one thing I'm going to do but haven't got the materials to do today is the front differential. Now, from what I've read in the manual, this takes 7 quarts of axle fluid. So I don't have that much. I'm going to have to go source some parts. But basically, you can see, maybe you can't see. You've got these, what we call portal style axles on the ends, and you've got these caps. Here's your oil fill cap up on the top here. You got the same kind of drain over on the other side as well. So basically all you do is pull those drains. You can see that one drain right there. And of course you've got the same thing on both sides. And if you raise the front of the tractor up, you can obviously, you know, tilt the axle back and forth as you need to drain all the old fluid out. And then you just top it off here with, like I said, 7 quarts of fresh stuff. So I need to get that done definitely at some point this summer. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's a good idea to do all of these maintenances a little bit early in life. Like I said, the tractor's only a couple of years old, but when this stuff is new and it all wears in, you know how it is. You get a little extra contaminant and shavings and material in your fluid. So never a bad idea to go ahead and do this early. And then after that, I feel like you can follow the manual. I've noticed that even though the tractor's only a couple of years old, I've already got some rust and corrosion coming on down here. Look at this. Nasty. So I got to clean that up today too. I'll tell you, man, it does not take long for these tractors and machinery to start showing signs of age. You know, I mean, obviously they're used in dusty and dirty environments every time you get on one. So they start to show their age pretty quickly. But, you know, I feel like if you take good care of this tractor like I'm trying to do, it should last you multiple decades. So I got everything done and I got the tractor back in the shop now. And then it occurred to me, you know, maybe I should have kind of showed you guys how to do this fuel filter, because maybe some of you guys haven't ever done the fuel filter before. So I'm going to shoot a little clip here real quick and just kind of add this into the video. So basically, if I can get in here. So this right here, like I said, is the water and fuel sensor. So the first step is you're just going to turn that like you normally would to loosen it up. You know, you're just going to twist that, and it's sort of threaded. And after you turn it for a while, it takes, you know, it's got a lot of threads on there, so it takes a little while. But you just twist it several times and that'll come off, and you can move it over to the side. And then with the original filter, then you just put your big filter wrench on there and twist it and turn it off. Now, like I was saying, you know, in the earlier part of this video, this new setup is a little different because you've got 3 different pieces here now. So you can just kind of do it however you want. Main thing is just make sure you got your gasket up here and your O-ring. Make sure that's in place, and then just screw that housing on, and then make sure your filter element's in there, obviously, and then screw the bowl on the bottom. Make sure the O-ring is in there correctly. There's a groove that goes around that bowl for the O-ring, and then obviously you screw your sensor back on last. So like I said, you just got 3 pieces there. You screw on clockwise like you normally would, and then you know, you're going to have to make sure you got your O-rings and seals and stuff in place where they go. It's not really that big of a deal, but just wanted to kind of show you that. Now, after you put this new one back on, or any fuel filter really, then you've got to prime the system. And up here, you can see that silver looking button on top. Obviously that's to prime the system. So you're going to have to get in there, put a little elbow grease on that, and pump that thing up and down. I had to pump it up and down about 20 times on mine. And once I saw diesel fuel coming into the bowl, then I knew I was good to go. So that's pretty much how you do that. You just, here, let me try to move the camera. This is a much better angle over here. So yeah, you just screw everything on in order. Make sure that your sensor's on, and then you just get in here and pump that up and down. Like I said, I had to do mine about 20 times to get diesel fuel back in there. So anyway, you guys that are experienced are like, well, duh. But if you've never ever done this before, it might be a little bit tricky. So I just wanted to show you that. Like I said, I'm just going to append this clip into the video. While I'm at it, I did kind of clean up the corrosion the best that I could and hit all that with some black spray paint down there. So it looks a little bit better. We'll see how long that lasts. And this is the oil filter wrench. Come on, focus. Anyway, you can kind of see it what I'm talking about. I think I got mine from Amazon, but I've seen them at the auto parts stores as well. This thing is worth its weight in gold because it's the best filter wrench that I've been able to find for that tractor and also that truck. The oil filter on that Hemi V8 is a pain in the rear end, and this wrench right here works absolutely the best on it. So get yourself one of these. All right, so now let's check out some part numbers. So here's the part number for the fuel filter element. So in the future, now that I've got the new updated housing, I should be able to just buy this element and pop in there. So that's for your fuel filter. This was, let's see here, trying to find an actual part number on this. There it is, right there. All right, there's the part number on the O-ring. So you're going to need one of these O-rings when you do the fuel filter. Here is the updated bowl, that transparent bowl. Part number on that, and here is the housing. So if you get all of those part numbers, there are 4 part numbers there in total. If you get those 4 things, you'll be able to service your complete fuel system. Here is the old filter. You can see how this is the engine oil filter. You can see how narrow it was. But let me turn this around and try to get a part number. Here's the one that has superseded that. So that's the oil filter that they sent me for the engine. Like I said, I mean, I guess there's not a problem with things being updated and improved. If they're improved, I feel like the fuel system probably is, because now you can kind of see the fuel in there, but it is what it is. All that basically leaves is the hydraulic system. And if you look up under the tractor, you've got a large hydraulic filter right here. and there's one on the other side in the same position, just over on the other side. And I have already changed both of those last year. I was trying to cure that one issue that I've had with this tractor where it gets air in the hydraulic system and it makes a horrible noise every time I do a cold start on it. Don't really know what the deal is with that, but I surmised that maybe there's air trapped in the system somewhere. So I took both the filters off and checked all the fluid levels, put new filters on, checked all the connections. We even pressure tested the connections, couldn't find any issues. So I called the dealership, talked to a technician down there, and he said, honestly, on these compact tractors like that, it's just a real common issue. He said the hydraulic systems on them are bare minimum that they can get away with to power the hydraulics that you typically find on a machine like this. So there's not really a wonderful hydraulic system on a machine like this, and they just tend to get some air in them and be slightly undersized at times. So he recommended that when you get that really loud whining noise from air being in the system, he said raise the loader all the way up, kind of like it is now. Tilt your bucket back and forth a few times, and that'll push all the air downstream back to the tank. And it does seem to work. So I've just been using the tractor and not worrying about it. But anyway, point is that both of these hydraulic filters have already been changed, so I'm not going to fool with those this year. And then other than that, like I said, we got the oil filter, fuel filter, fresh engine oil, topped off the coolant, cleaned out the air filter. I've pretty much covered most of what you want to do on these on a regular basis, except for the front axle, which, like I said, I have to get more fluid, so I can do that later this year. So at this point, I'm just going to get the pressure washer out, clean the tractor real good, and then get out the grease gun, because there's a lot of grease fittings. You got grease fittings all over the loader, front differential, steering system. There's grease fittings all over these things. So after I pressure wash it, I'll go get my grease gun, grease it all up real good, and then it should be ready to roll for another year. I've been kind of getting into the habit of servicing this tractor every summer. It seems to work out pretty good for us. We don't put a lot of hours on it. I think it's only got 170 hours on it, so we don't put a lot of hours on it. It's just mostly time, So every summer, I do a full service on it, and I figure if I do that, like I said, it should last hopefully for the rest of my life. Have you seen the prices on these things now? Good night. This tractor right here, as you see it, is about $35,000 now. It's just crazy how much they've gone up just in 2 years. As far as if you want to check your hydraulic fluid, obviously it's just right here. You got this little dipstick that you can pull, and everything's looking pretty good, so no worries there. But that's pretty simple and straightforward. They mark all this stuff with white paint at the factory, by the way. You can see how they covered it up in white. They do that on all the plugs all over this tractor, so pretty easy to locate them the first time you do it. You can see that those Pat's quick hitch pieces there are getting some wear and tear on them. Check that out. We definitely use them, and I still love them. So yeah, you guys absolutely can do all of your own tractor service at home, and I highly recommend it, because then you can make sure that you're using the right products, you can do it correctly, you know what's been done to the tractor, and you know it's been done right. And like I said, you can save a ton of money. Now, some guys feel like that they're just too busy, maybe. Some of you guys who are into farming and all that kind of stuff, and you're just so busy that you just don't have time. So maybe you want to just drop your tractor off and have your dealer do it for you. Or maybe you've got a great relationship with your dealer and you just don't mind to give them a little money and, help them out so they can help you out in the future, right? I understand that, but out here where I live, it's just really inconvenient to load the tractor up and haul it an hour to the dealership. So I'm glad that it's pretty easy to do on this tractor. It was all fairly easy. So if you got any questions, you can drop them below. And appreciate you guys watching. Keep on tractoring. I'll talk to you later.